The secret life of biblical prophets, scandals, visions, and the truth religion tried to bury. The desert wind howls, carrying whispers of a truth too dangerous to speak. In the shadows of ancient temples, men called prophets walked, not as saints but as rebels. They spoke to kings, defied empires, and claimed to hear the voice of God. But behind the miracles and sermons, they hid secrets so explosive that scribes burned the evidence. These men weren't holy, they were threats. This is the untold story of the prophets, the men who shaped history and the lies that shaped them. Elijah's descent, the prophet who tried to quit. Elijah stood on Mount Carmel, fire raining from heaven, and slaughtered 450 priests of Baal, 1 Kings 18:38-40. The crowd cheered, the king trembled, but Elijah, he ran into the desert. Under a broom tree, he begged God to kill him. "I have had enough, Lord. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." 1 Kings 19:4. The Bible calls it depression. The Dead Sea Scrolls call it guilt. Elijah wasn't just a prophet, he was a man haunted by his actions, a hero or a broken soul. Elijah's battle wasn't with the priests of Baal. His real battle was within himself. After defeating hundreds of false prophets, he found himself defeated by the weight of the violence and bloodshed. He wasn't just the hero the people cheered. He was a human being with flaws, fears, and struggles. Even prophets break. But Elijah's story doesn't end in the desert. He was taken in a whirlwind, still a servant of God, still the voice of truth, but also a reminder that even those closest to God have moments of doubt and desperation. Isaiah's double life, the prophet who played politics. Isaiah preached peace. They will beat their swords into plowshares. Isaiah 2:4. He prophesied a world without war, where nations would live in harmony under God's reign. But Assyrian records tell a different story. When King Hezekiah faced an invasion from Assyria, Isaiah didn't just pray for deliverance, he schemed. He brokered a secret deal with Egypt, trading gold for soldiers, all while claiming to speak on behalf of the Lord. Isaiah's actions aren't the peaceful visions we remember from Sunday school. They are filled with political maneuvering and survival tactics. Isaiah wasn't just a prophet. He was a politician, playing both sides to ensure Judah's survival. The Bible scrubbed the evidence, but the ruins of Nineveh still tell the story of a prophet who balanced his allegiance to God with his allegiance to the throne. Sometimes the prophets we venerate weren't just God's mouthpieces. They were men caught in the struggle for power, just like everyone else. Ezekiel's visions, prophecy or madness. Ezekiel saw wheels within wheels, angels with 4 faces, and a throne of fire. Ezekiel 1:4-28. Modern scholars call it hallucinations, likely caused by ergot poisoning from moldy bread. Some even say Ezekiel was a victim of trauma and stress, but ancient texts tell a more sinister tale. The Apocryphon of Ezekiel, which the church banned, claims that Ezekiel's visions were not divine encounters, but coded messages against the powers of his time. Ezekiel's prophecy wasn't about God's throne, it was about the corruption of rulers. He wrote, "The throne of God is a lie. Kings rule only by blood." Apocryphon of Ezekiel. Ezekiel wasn't simply relaying God's message. He was speaking out against the empire and the system that crushed the oppressed. His visions were coded rebellions, hidden in plain sight. Ezekiel wasn't a prophet. He was a revolutionary. Hosea's tragic marriage, when love becomes a weapon. God commanded Hosea to marry Gomer, a prostitute, to symbolically show Israel's unfaithfulness to God. Hosea 1:2. But there's more to this story than a tragic marriage. Hosea was commanded to humiliate her, name their children not loved and not my people. Hosea 1:6-9. Why? To teach Israel a lesson about their spiritual adultery. But what the scriptures don't tell you is this. Gomer wasn't just a prostitute. She was a priestess of Asherah, a Canaanite fertility goddess. deeply involved in the very worship practices God condemned. Hosea's marriage wasn't just about Israel's faithlessness. It was about confronting a competing religion, one that threatened the survival of God's people. This wasn't love. This was a battle, a spiritual war fought in the darkest corners of human suffering. Hosea didn't just suffer for his unfaithful wife. He suffered for a nation's betrayal. The prophet's forbidden legacy. Why the elites fear them. The prophets didn't die for your salvation. They died for truth. They called kings rapists, rich men thieves, and temples brothels. Isaiah 1:23. The same way they called the false prophets of Baal out for their corruption, they exposed the flaws and evils of the powerful. No wonder Rome erased 82 books from the Bible. No wonder the Dead Sea Scrolls were hidden for centuries. The prophets spoke uncomfortable truths. They challenged power. They weren't fortune tellers. They were whistleblowers. They didn't speak about the future. They exposed the lies that kept people oppressed. Today, we're told the prophets were saints, martyrs for God's cause. But the truth is more complicated. The Bible records men who were broken, betrayed, and tortured for speaking truth. They were silenced not because they preached God's word, but because they exposed corruption at the highest levels of society. And the message they left behind is still forbidden today. Share this video, tag a pastor, tag a scholar, tag someone who still trusts the pulpit. Because Sugar Bytes News doesn't preach history, we expose it. Subscribe. The next revelation is already unfolding. Are you ready to hear it? Sugar Bytes News, where the truth shatters the silence. Turn on notifications. The next truth is already written.